founder Acharya Jagadguru Paditapavana Srila Prabhupada. We're reading the second canto, the 7th chapter, which is entitled Scheduled Incarnations. We're reading text number 8. Vidha Sapatni Udita Patribi Anti Rajna Bala Api San Upagata Tapase Vanani Tasmai Adat Dhruva Gatim, a path to the Dhruva planet. Grinate, on being prayed for. Prasana, being satisfied. Divya, denizens of higher planets. Stuvanti, do pray. Munayaha, great sages. Yat, thereupon. Upari, up. Adastat, down. Vidasapni udita pratribir antiragno. Balopi san ubagatas tapase vanani. Tasma adad dhruva gatim granate prasano. Divya stuvanti munayo yad upari adastat. Vidha sapatni udita patribir antirajno. Balopi san upagatas tapase vanani. Tasma adad dhruva gatim grinate pasano. Divya stuvanti munayo yad upari adastat. Vidasa patni udita patribir antirajno. Balopi san upagatas tapase vanani. Tasma adad dhruva gatim grinate prasano. Divya stuvanti munayo yadupari adastat. Give me the 4th canto, part 1. Someone, please. Vidha, pinched by. Sapatni, a co-wife. Udita, uttered by. Patribi, by sharp words. Anti, just before. Of the king. Bala, a boy. Api, although. Son, being so. Bhagata, took to. Tapase, severe penances. Vanani, in a great forest. Tasmai, therefore. Adat, gave as a reward. Jruvagatim, a path to the Dhruva planet. Grinate, on being prayed for. Prasanna, being satisfied. Divya, denizens of higher planets. Stuvanti, do pray. Munaya, great sages. Yat, thereupon. Upari, up. Adastat, down. Can I have one of those fancy tables put here? Thank you. Translation. This is Lord Brahma again speaking, scheduled incarnations 2, Narada Muni. Hare Krishna. Being insulted by sharp words spoken by the co-wife of the king, even in his presence, Prince Dhruva, though only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest, and the Lord, being satisfied by his prayer, awarded him the Dhruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages, both upward and downward. Please repeat. Being insulted by sharp words. Spoken by the co-wife of the king. Even in his presence. Prince Dhruva, though only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest. And the Lord, being satisfied by his prayer, awarded him the Dhruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages, both upward and downward. Purport. Maybe kind of gravitate a little more this way because my neck is not very flexible this morning to look all over the place. Yeah, it's very nice. Purport. When he was only 5 years old, Prince Dhruva, a great devotee and the son of Maharaj Uttanapad, was sitting on the lap of his father. His stepmother did not like the king's patting her stepson, so he dragged him out, saying that he could not claim to sit on the lap of the king because he was not born out of her womb. The little boy felt insulted by this act of his stepmother, nor did his father make any protest, for the wife was too attached to his second wife. After this incident, Prince Dhruva went to his own mother and complained. His real mother also could not take any step against this insulting behavior, and so she wept. The boy inquired from his mother how he could sit on the royal throne of his father, and the poor queen replied that only the Lord could help him. The boy inquired where the Lord could be seen, and the queen replied that it is said that the Lord is sometimes seen by great sages in a dense forest. The child prince decided to go into the forest to perform severe penances in order to achieve his objective. Prince Dhruva performed a stringent type of penance under the instruction of his spiritual master, Sri Narada Muni, who was specifically deputed for this purpose by the personality of Godhead. Prince Dhruva was initiated by Narada into chanting the hymn composed of 18 letters, namely Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And Lord Vasudeva incarnated himself as Prishni Garbha, the personality of Godhead with 4 hands, and awarded the prince a specific planet above the 7 stars. Prince Dhruva, after achieving success in his undertakings, saw the Lord face to face and was satisfied that all his needs were fulfilled. The planet awarded to Prince Dhruva Maharaj is a fixed Vaikuntha planet installed in the material atmosphere by the will of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. This planet, although within the material world, will not be annihilated at the time of devastation, but will remain fixed in its place. And because it is a Vaikuntha planet, never to be annihilated, it is worshipped even by the denizens of the 7 stars situated below the Dhruva planet, as well as by the planets which are even above the Dhruva planet. Maharishi Bhrigu's planet is situated above the Dhruva planet. So the Lord incarnated himself as Prishni Garbha just to satisfy a pure devotee of the Lord. And Prince Dhruva achieved this perfection simply by chanting the hymn mentioned above after being initiated by another pure devotee, Narada. A serious personality can thus achieve the highest perfection of meeting the Lord and attain his objective simply by being guided by a pure devotee who automatically approaches by dint of one's serious determination to meet the Lord by all means. The description of Prince Dhruva's activities can be read in detail in the 4th canto of Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jananjana Shalakaya. Can make this made a little bit louder so I don't have to eat it slightly. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Huh?
Everyone can hear you well, I think.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty loud.
It's pretty loud?
You want it louder, I think.
No, well, okay, all right, okay.
It's
Because I don't want to, it's straining. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Gadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Rakanatan Vidam Dham Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakavitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite. Divya Dvindaranya Kalpa Drumada Śrīmad Ratnagara Sringasanasto Śrīmad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Pastalabi Sevimanu Smarami Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadrubhyas Cha Kripasinubhye Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Vida sapatni udita patribir anti rajno balo pisan upagatas tapase vanani Tasma adad Dhruva gatim granate prasano divya stuvanti munayo yat upari adastat. Read it out loud.
Being insulted by sharp words spoken by the co-wife of the king, even in his presence, Prince Dhruva, though only a boy, took to severe penances in the forest. And the Lord, being satisfied by his prayer, awarded him the Dhruva planet, which is worshipped by great sages, both upward and downward.
Hare Krishna. So I just want this like a little further away from myself, that's all. Alright. And I don't want to have to strain my voice. So, this chapter, Scheduled Incarnations, is a very nice catalog of so many of the Lord's primary and secondary incarnations, avatars, like that. And just one verse is describing a very extraordinary and exceptional personality, Dhruva Maharaj, as Prabhupada concludes today's purport. Make it louder. The description of Prince Dhruva's activities can be read in detail in the 4th canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So there are many, many chapters. Someone could look up something like half a dozen or more chapters just about Dhruva Maharaj's activities. That's good. Thank you. Of the most important sections of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, if we want to see the practical example of Lord Chaitanya, who very much relished hearing the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam recited by Gadadhar Pandit, that two sections were favored or were listened to by Lord Chaitanya, and that is the activities of Prahlad Maharaj. It wasn't that Hiranyakashipu caused the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. It seemed like it was so, but it was actually the pure devotional service of Prahlad Maharaj. And here, Dhruva Maharaj's activities caused an incarnation of the Lord Krishnagarbha. At the end of the chapter, in the 4th canto called Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back Home, Back to Godhead, this is interesting and unique. Narada Muni is in ecstasy, glorifying the activities of Dhruva Maharaj, pointing out the uniqueness and excellence of his resolve, and what's mentioned here, determination, seriousness in Krishna consciousness. It's interesting to note that both of these great personalities, Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj, are the disciples of Narada Muni. And interesting to note that Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj became a disciple of Narada Muni when he was 5 years old. And Prahlad Maharaj became a disciple of Narada Muni when he was less than 0 years old, because he was a child lying in the womb of his mother. He wasn't even born yet. Actually, it's not less than 0. That's the Western idea. Prabhupada was celebrating his appearance day, Vyas Puja, quote-unquote, birthday, at Bhaktivedanta Manor in 1977, and the devotees put 81 candles. You know, Prabhupada is very smart and observant. So he says to his secretary, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, how many candles? 81, Srila Prabhupada. There should be 82. Because when you're the day that you're born, it's actually your second birthday. No, it's your first birthday, because you're born. Today's number 1. And also, you were conceived 9 months or 10 months prior. So it's not that, when you're born, that this is birthday 0, it's birthday number 1. So when you're 1 year old, it's birthday number 2. So that's the way they consider in India. So Prabhupada had it corrected to be 82 years, 82 candles. So we see here for those who are interested, chapter 12, I'm looking from verse 41. The great sage Narada said, simply by the influence of his spiritual advancement and powerful austerity, Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Suniti, who was devoted to her husband, acquired an exalted position not possible to attain even for so-called Vedantists or strict followers of the Vedic principles, not to speak of ordinary human beings. It's like my head is casting a shadow on when I'm reading here. I mean, it's possible for those to come on. Without devotional service, neither a great king, a kshatriya, nor a great Brahmin strictly adhering to the Vedic principles can be elevated to the exalted position attained by Dhruva Maharaj. Just see how Dhruva Maharaj, aggrieved at the harsh words of his stepmother, went to the forest at the age of only 5 years, and under my direction underwent austerity. Of course, Narada Muni tested him. My dear Dhruva, what is this? You're just a boy, 5 years old. Why are you feeling so insulted? Do not try for this. Even great personalities performing penance and austerities for countless lifetimes don't achieve the darshan of the Supreme Lord. But Dhruva Maharaj was so determined. No, I must meet the Supreme Personality of Godhead. My mother has told me that only He can satisfy me and solve my absolve my hurt. He actually wanted revenge against his stepmother and stepbrother also. And it's described when he ultimately got the darshan of the Supreme Lord, he realized that wanting such things was wanting a broken piece of glass in light of a fabulously valuable diamond. And he regretted that he had such desires in his heart. Still, the Lord fulfilled that desire ultimately, and both his step brother and stepmother perished in the stepbrother perished in a unfortunate incident with the Yakshas, who he later fought, Dhruva Maharaj, and his stepmother perished in a forest fire. So the lesson is that one should be very careful to not insult a great devotee at any stage of life. Let's say he was only 5 years old. He hadn't manifested his great devotional service yet, but still, we have to be very careful. Okay, what? Anyway, we shall... Nope, that didn't do it. It had to be the middle ones. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is unconquerable, Dhruva Maharaj defeated him with the specific qualifications possessed by the Lord's devotees. So how can the unconquerable, the Supreme Lord, be conquered? Only by he accepts voluntarily the subordination to the devotional qualities of his devotees. Mother Yashoda, he agreed to come under her control. Everyone comes under the before the Lord and offers him exalted prayers, but the Lord does not feel as pleased when offered such prayers as he does when a devotee out of pure love chastises him as a subordinate. The Lord forgets his exalted position and willingly submits to his pure devotee. Dhruva Maharaj conquered the Supreme Lord because at a very tender age, only 5 years old, he underwent all the austerities of devotional service. He followed his spiritual master, Narada Muni. If a devotee follows strictly the direction of the spiritual masters, Dhruva Maharaj did, then it is not difficult for him to achieve the favor of the Lord. The sum total of devotional qualities is development of unalloyed love for Krishna. This unalloyed love for Krishna can be achieved simply by hearing about Krishna. I just heard the memory of Gauri Das Pandit, a Prabhupada disciple who was just a very new and junior person at the time. In 1977, he was fortunate enough to become part of the team under the leadership of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, assisting Prabhupada in his final days. And Prabhupada had seen that he was reading this fourth canto, which has Dhruva Maharaj, Maharaj Prithu in particular, and Prabhupada, who had such a very grave and serious atmosphere in the last months of Prabhupada's life, Prabhupada just beamed with pleasure and said, "Oh, that's very nice." And he said to Tamal Krishna, "This boy is reading the fourth canto." And then Gauridas Pandit says, I was doing all this service in 110-degree weather and so much trouble and difficulty, and Prabhupada never said anything, never gave any indication whether he was pleased or not pleased. But when he understood that I was reading and was relishing his Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam, fourth canto, Prabhupada became very pleased. This unalloyed love can be achieved simply by hearing about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya accepted this principle that if one is in any position, submissively hears the transcendental message spoken by Krishna or about Krishna, then gradually he develops the quality of unalloyed love, and by that love only he can conquer the unconquerable. It's mentioned in today's verse, Vanani, in a great forest. In the beginning section where Dhruva Maharaj is advised to go to the forest, Prabhupada writes in the purport there, for the Gaudiya, for one who has been insulted or suffered the tribulation of the dualities of this material world, forest going is compulsory. That means you must go. You must leave the material world and go to the forest. For the Vaishnava, particularly the Gaudiya Vaishnava, the best forest is the forest of Vrindavan, the goddess Brinda. If one takes shelter under the lotus feet of Vrindavaneshwari, Srimati Radharani, by going to the forest of Vrindavan, then all the problems of one's life are solved without difficulty. So that is a direct instruction, and at the same time, simultaneously, is to be understood in the greater context of what is pleasing to the Lord. And what is pleasing to the Lord, just as I was saying here, the Dhruva was determined to meet the Lord by all means. So what did the Lord do? In the beginning, seeing that determination, as Antaryami, Lord in the heart, he knows our intention and our inclinations. He sends the spiritual master, Narada Muni. By the grace of Krishna, one gets Guru, and by the grace of Guru, one gets Krishna. So, without getting the shelter of the pure devotee Vaishnava, spiritual master, and what to speak of following his instructions, cent per cent, heart and soul, without any duplicity or superiority complex, then there's no question of Krishna being pleased. So if the spiritual master awards one a service, then by dedicating oneself to that service, wherever that service is to be performed, then that place becomes non-different than Vrindavan, because pure devotional service is only performed in Vrindavan. In other words, by performance of pure devotional service puts you in Vrindavan. And for those of us who have actually lived and performed devotional service in Vrindavan, we can say that we have seen that there are many persons who are seemingly physically in Vrindavan, but their activities do not demonstrate the ideal of pure devotional service. Srila Narottam Das Thakur, a great Vaishnava of the modern time, has warned us about being bewildered by various persons performing various activities in the pilgrimage places. He's even said, the attempt to travel to various holy places of pilgrimage is simply the mind's mistake, because all one needs is the lotus feet of Lord Govinda. So that's a note on that. Dhruva Maharaj attained an exalted position at the age of only 5 or 6 years, and after undergoing austerity for 6 months. Alas, a great Kshatriya cannot achieve such a position even after undergoing austerities for many, many years. This is the purport where Prabhupada says, we'll share this with you, but we'll give you the prior to build up to the transcendental punchline here. Narada Muni was very proud of having a devotee disciple like Dhruva Maharaj. He had many other disciples, but he was very pleased with Dhruva because in one lifetime, by dint of his severe penances and austerities, he has achieved Vaikuntha, which was never achieved by any other king's son or Rajarshi throughout the whole universe. And the mention here of King Bharta, but ultimately he had to take 3 lives more. 3 lives altogether. King Bharta, then a deer, and then Jad Bharat before he achieved perfection. The lesson from the life and in regards to Maharaj Bharta, that it's described why did he fall down? It's because of his, it was some lack of sincerity ultimately, even though he was on the Bhava platform. The lesson from the life of Dhruva is that if one likes, one can attain Vaikuntha Loka in one life without waiting for many other lives. My Guru Maharaj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada used to say that every one of his disciples could attain Vaikuntha Loka in this life without waiting for another life to execute devotional service. One simply has to become as serious and sincere as Dhruva Maharaj, then it is quite possible to attain Vaikuntha Loka and go back home, back to Godhead in one lifetime. So in this regard, as Srila Prabhupada is mentioning his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, we have in his Upakhana Upadesh instructive stories collection some nice illustrative stories in this regard about sincerity. And one is called well, the best one I thought was called Mercy for the Earnest Only. Yes, that's on page 55. By chance, a person slipped and fell into a deep well and could not get out in spite of all his efforts. Therefore, he began shouting for help. Being merciful, a very kind-hearted passerby brought a piece of long, strong rope, which was lowered down into the well so that the man could get out by grabbing the rope. The passerby asked the man to catch hold of the rope and try to climb up so he could pull him up. In response, the person started shouting, "Oh, my friend, please help me so that I can put my fingers around the rope." So this is an illustration of insincerity. Purport: such a kind-hearted person is like the spiritual master or the supreme Godhead himself. He has already lowered a rope of rescue into the deep darkness of our ignorance. It is only by our earnest effort in catching hold of that mercy that we can be delivered and liberated from material agonies. Unless we extend our best efforts earnestly and qualify ourselves for the Lord's mercy, it is next to impossible that we can be rescued from our fallen condition. You see, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, one of his particular excellences was showing the actual insincerity, whereas many people, by vox populi, by popular vote, think that, oh, whatever is this activity or this philosophy or this person or group of persons' activities, this is very noble and laudable, but actually not so. In this regard, a very good example is called cheating a blacksmith with inferior steel. A tradesman, like Trader Joe, maybe, wanted to present himself as very intelligent. He appeared to be adept in making a fool of others by dint of his cunningness. So we have to be careful not to mistake being a fast talker or a smooth talker as being synonymous with being advanced in Krishna consciousness. Once he was adept in making a fool of others by dint of his cunningness. Once he managed to get some coconuts from a vendor through his usual slyness. Then he wanted a sharp chopper to break them open. Eventually he found a very old and rusty chopper in the corner of his room. Taking it to a blacksmith, he asked him to reshape it and make it first class again. The blacksmith told him that he could forge a very good chopper if good quality steel was given to him. Then the clever tradesman played a double game, telling the blacksmith, "I am a steel merchant, and I have got some good quality steel in my stock. I would like to give you an extra amount of that excellent steel. Could you forge a chopper for me with that steel free of cost? Of course, you may keep the extra steel. Whatever is left after forging the chopper for your own labor, charge. I can assure you that nowhere in India can you find such excellent steel that I will send you. It is very costly, you know." After delivering such artful language, the tradesman in fact sent a condemned third-rate sheet of iron through his son to the blacksmith. Just glancing at the piece of iron, the blacksmith realized that it was not steel, but only a piece of useless iron. However, the blacksmith made a chopper with that iron, and as it was ineffective and practically useless, the tradesman came back to the blacksmith threatening and shouting at him, while the blacksmith retorted saying, "Cheating a blacksmith with inferior steel can only bring out such a chopper." Purport: those who make any attempt to deceive their spiritual master and the Vaishnavas in rendering devotional service will certainly come to an end with something spurious. Everybody knows what spurious means? Ask the dictionary. Any attempt of deception in the field of devotional service is simply self-deception. It pulls one down into the clutches of the illusory energy without any benefit. Some people...
Not being what it purports to be, false or fake, separating authentic and spurious claims.
Right. Some people with ulterior motives think that others who have surrendered everything to the Lord are only deceived, and those who are continuing to play the double roles of both devotional service as well as self-gratification actually gain more. In fact, such a double game is surely tantamount to deceiving a blacksmith by supplying him with an inferior quality of iron while asking him to prepare a good quality steel chopper. No one can ever deceive the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is never possible to conquer the domain of the Lord by any sort of deception and quackery. Only one who has candidly surrendered everything unto the lotus feet of the Lord is eligible for achieving all good. Great saintly persons and devotees very much like to hear about Dhruva Maharaj. By hearing the narration of Dhruva Maharaj, one can fulfill desires for wealth, reputation, and increased duration of life. It is so auspicious that one can even go to a heavenly planet or attain Dhruva Loka, which was achieved by Dhruva Maharaj just by hearing about him. The demigods also become pleased because this narration is so glorious and it is so powerful that it can counteract all the results of one's sinful actions. Anyone who hears the narration of Dhruva Maharaj and repeatedly tries with faith and devotion to understand his pure devotional character attains the pure devotional platform and executes pure devotional service. By such activities, one can diminish the threefold miserable conditions of material life. Anyone who hears this narration of Dhruva Maharaj acquires exalted qualities like him. For anyone who desires greatness, prowess, or influence, here is the process by which to achieve them. And for thoughtful men who want adoration, here is the proper means. The great sage Maitreya recommended one should chant of the character and activities of Dhruva Maharaj both in the morning and in the evening with great attention and care in the society of brahmanas or other twice-born persons. The narration of Dhruva Maharaj is sublime knowledge for the attainment of immortality. Persons unaware of the absolute truth can be led to the path of truth. Those who out of transcendental kindness take on the responsibility of becoming master protectors of the poor living entities automatically gain the interest and blessings of the demigods. It comes to mind Krishna's statement in the Bhagavad Gita, "Be thou happy by this yagna, because by its performance all desirable things will be bestowed upon you." There's that painting by, I believe, Bharadvaj in the first Macmillan Bhagavad Gita, with a young husband and wife with a child in the mother's arms are dancing in Sankirtan outside their little house in the country, and the demigods, or four demigods, are like bestowing all that they need for them. From spiritual well-being automatically comes material well-being. Dina Natasya, protectors of the poor. So when devotees go out in public, and especially Harinam Sankirtan, which is casting this huge net, or it's like, there's a kind of macabre example that if you go out, you know, and spread gas everywhere and everybody has to breathe it, then everyone will be influenced by what you're filling the air supply with. Hopefully it's good. So here we're filling the entire atmosphere with the holy name of Krishna so that everyone is benedicted and everyone is blessed. So that activity, because it is going to it is awarding the supreme benefit, Shreya Karaiva Chandrika Vitaranam. So those who do so, those who spread the message of Godhead are the most munificent. What is it? Tapta Jivanam. How does that start? Tavakatamritam Tapta Jivanam. Yes, so master protectors. They gain the interest of the demigods. The transcendental activities of Dhruva Maharaj are well known all over the world, and they are very pure. In childhood, he rejected all kinds of toys and playthings, left the protection of his mother, and seriously took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments?
There's
We said that in the beginning of the class.
I was gone for that. Can you repeat it? Can you maybe say
You just said it.
Well, okay, I have a question related to that. So Lord Chaitanya, why would he listen to Dhruva Maharaj? Doesn't he want interested in more in hearing about the intimate pastimes of Krishna?
Yes, and he did, but he also relished hearing Dhruva and Prahlad Maharaj because they are pure devotees. And if I could maybe say from one angle that Lord Chaitanya, interested in all the fallen conditioned souls coming out of darkness and coming to pure devotional service in the age of Kali Yuga, the entire Śhrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a rasic literature meant to be relished by the pure devotees. So it's not that Dhruva Maharaj or Prahlad Maharaj are any less or not as good as hearing about the gopis and the cowherd boys, Mother Yashoda in the 10th canto, but it's all interrelated. And Lord Chaitanya has the capacity to, as he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he is the enjoyer of all the activities of his pure devotees in any part of the universe, in any time, yuga, place, or circumstance. Hare Krishna. Anything else? I can't hear.
I was hearing that Dhruva and Prahlad were two of our acharyas that attained perfection
What?
by remembering and by praying. Dhruva and Prahlad.
Yeah, I think it mentioned that here in the false Shruti.
You did? Oh, yeah, just Prahlad. Dhruva.
All right, so we can stop. Thank you very much. Grantaraj Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.